Welcome, Royalers. It's another great episode of Royal, Black, and Elite. This is where we meet to learn about all of the different side of Black history, the royal side, the elite side, people that you may have never heard of. And I'm your host, Lady Trinette Wilson. I am so excited because today I want to introduce you to a very special woman in the field of etiquette. So I have to take you to Hitsville in Detroit and the record label of Motown. Now, if you've heard of Motown and grooved to some of their most famous artists and greatest records, you fell in love with them not only because of the music, but because of their style and grace on stage and during interviews. It wasn't by accident. They were highly trained by the director of artist development and a preeminent etiquette instructor. Her name is Maxine Powell, and today we're going to meet the Maven of Motown. Born on May 30th, 1915 in Texarkana, Texas, Maxine Powell was introduced to the field of etiquette really early in life when she moved to Chicago, Illinois to be raised by her aunt, Mary James Lloyd, and she taught her everything about etiquette and refinement. Powell attended the Keith and Willard Elementary Schools, and she graduated from Hyde Park High School in 1933. Before graduating, her Aunt Mary passed away, but not before leaving an indelible mark that propelled Powell to an historic etiquette career. After graduating from high school, Powell attended the Madam C.J. Walker School of Beauty and Culture. Now, Madam C.J. Walker was one of the first self made female Black millionaires in America. So, how outstanding and just interesting that these people knew each other and, came together and worked together. She went to her school. Now, while attending the school, Powell paid for her acting classes, earning money as a manicurist. So that's something that she did from early in life. Now, for 8 years, she studied allocution with playwright, producer, and director of the Negro Drama League, James Barron. And she was interested in improving herself and becoming a well rounded artist. So she also studied dance and movement with Sammy Dyer during the time. So Miss Powell was really amazing. She even developed a one-woman show, and it was called An Evening with Maxine. Now she was making her way in the world. She was doing a great job, but she still had to work. And during the time, she had to work as a maid to wealthy clientele. That's how she was paying for the acting classes and the modeling classes. And so she held fashion shows to try to raise money as well. And she was doing really good. But in 1945, everything changed. You see, she happened to be reading a newspaper, and a hotel called the Gotham Hotel in Detroit, Michigan opened up in that year. It was a 200-room hotel, and Maxine, she didn't care what she had to do, she had to get there. So she did. She went to Detroit and she visited for 11 days. Those 11 days actually turned into a lifetime because soon after she arrived, Powell started loving the city, so she began to wanting to be there and she moved there. Now, as soon as she got there, she put all of the training that she had learned to quick work because she opened up her school. So she was teaching self improvement and modeling classes, and then she did it formally with the Maxine Powell Finishing in Modeling School. She opened it up in 1951. And in 1953, she was able to purchase her own home on a street called Ferry Street. She renovated it and it became the largest banquet hall in Detroit for African Americans. Now, I put a picture here. This is not her place, but this would give you a kind of example of what it may have looked like. So her career was going really well. Her business acumen and her grace, it was immeasurable. And it landed her models the first feature in ads by the Detroit automakers. That was a major accomplishment back then. Powell showcased her models at local fashion shows that she coordinated. And one of her models, well, changed her life. Her name was Gwen Gordy Fuqua, and she was the sister of Motown founder and owner Berry Gordy. Now, before Berry was Berry Gordy, he and his family they owned a printing company, and that's actually how Maxine met them. Gwen was one of her models, and they were going to have a show, and they were going to use the Gordy family's printing company as the place to print the flyers for the show. Well, Gordy recognized how graceful and how beautiful Maxine was, and so he said, "Hey, listen, can you be the director of artist development for me?" And he was just getting started, and he asked her to prepare the artist for the White House and Buckingham Palace, and that she did. She immediately swung in and went to work with some of Barry's largest acts and people we know today, people like Diana Ross and the Supremes. And Diana said that Maxine Powell taught her everything that she knows. Marvin Gaye, who we know was a very famous singer. In fact, he married one of Berry Gordy's sister, Anna. And Marvin Gaye did not like going to classes, so he used to always complain about having to go to the classes. Another famous person, Tammy Terrell, he also trained her before her unfortunate passing. What about Smokey Robinson? She even trained Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. One of her most famous groups, and a little bit of nugget for you, is the Temptations. And I am proud to say that my daughter, her name is Kiki Perez, is a award-winning gospel singer. And she sung on the last Temptations album, studio album called Back to Front. So that's a proud mommy moment. And so Maxine Powell also trained the Temptations. So it's something about those Texas girls that those Temptations loved. And right before they closed down the artist development department, the Jackson Five. So she even trained the Jackson Five. Maxine trained the artist on hygiene, on deportment, on how to interview well, how to stand properly, as well as how to take great photos. Her career was illustrious. During Maxine's and Motown's era, being classy was really important. But then we came in the 1970s with funk and R&B, and that changed everything. That replaced the smooth ballads of the Motown artists and the smooth behavior. And with the change in behavior, they no longer needed a person who was over artist development anymore. So after 5 years, Maxine left Motown. Now, you know she couldn't stay sitting down. So she became an instructor at the Wayne Community College from 1971 until 1995. And she continued to consult clients privately. Maxine had a fall and she passed away on October 14th, 2013 in Southfield, Michigan at the age of 98. She passed away in Providence Hospital. For me, this was such an amazing woman, not only because she was from Texas, but because she reached the heights of artist development and etiquette and image consulting in a time when the best artists came to her for her advice. Which brings us to our close of Maxine Powell. This is a beautiful picture of her a couple of years actually before her passing in 2013. And as an etiquette consultant, and especially as a African American etiquette consultant, it brings me great joy to honor my fellow Texan for her wonderful work in the field of etiquette and with the artist of Motown. Now, I've left my daughter's song in the links if you want to hear it. And I want to thank you for tuning in for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite.